So today I want to talk about what it's like to take back dominion of our home, to take back some control over the atmosphere through which our whole family is living, and what does it look like to be more intentional about our home. And I thought we could do all that while I'm doing basic home stuff. You can kind of come along with me through my day, but I want to talk about this because I think it's so important. I think the home is very, very important for our relationships, for our sanity, for our regulation, for the regulation of the people in our home. And you know what I mean by that is how they feel in their body and how they feel in relation and connection with one another. We really only get one chance, right, to be a mother. And so I don't want this to just slip by because we're not paying attention to the home that we're creating. And so I know that I have struggled very much feeling chaotic in my home and feeling like, oh, this environment is just not even a place I want to be in. So why would they want to be in it? I have definitely felt that way. You know, I look around and I see clutter, or everybody's fighting, or, you know, it just doesn't feel good, versus that feeling of like, my kids even notice, Mama, this feels peaceful to me. With, you know, there's no words. It's just a feeling. It's very thick. You know, the air feels differently. What does it look like to start to create that? I'm going to kind of share what I have found to be helpful in taking back my home today. So, hey, my name is Lana. This is Girl Teaching Me. I created this channel primarily to be a help to new moms who are feeling overwhelmed and burnt out and just overstimulated. But of course, you know, I am talking to all mamas who really want to level up and want to be more intentional in their motherhood. So if that resonates with you, I hope that you'll stay and hit subscribe. And also, if you happen to be pregnant, I want to let you know I have a free class that helps you just understand some key decisions that can really lead to a different kind of birth experience. We don't want to leave that up to chance. We don't want to leave it up to whoever happens to be on call that day to determine what kind of birth we have, right? There are decisions that we can make ahead of time to set ourselves up. Birth is wild, you know, we're not in full control, of course, but we can do some things differently to set ourselves up. So I want you to know about that because I so wish I had known about these things sooner in my journey. I don't want you to have to wait until you're 3 or 4 babies in to figure this stuff out. At the time of filming this, I am pregnant with my 6th baby, which is so hard to believe. But I know that this free class can be a help to you if you're pregnant. So I wanted to make sure you knew about it. Okay, so talking about our home, I actually did a course, a little mini course with one of the best on YouTube. Her name's Margaret Matheny. She's a dear friend. And I really just interviewed her in this course on what she thought it meant to really take back her home, because that has been her story. She has, you know, lived in an environment that didn't feel good and lived in clutter and lived in like dysregulation and struggled with anger like I have, and then has just found that there is so much we can do to take back ground in our home. And so that little mini course, you know, it's a great resource, and I loved hearing her take because she's so wise and has been so intentional about that, and she's taught me many, many things. I'm going to share a couple of the things that I have implemented in this video today. Of course, you know, if you want to dive deeper, it's a great resource, and I think Margaret's one of the best. For me, where I started was myself. The thing that was really hurting my home more than anything was me. It was me. And what I mean by that was I was not taking care of me. I was not in a regulated state. I keep saying regulated because I felt like on edge, and my kids could feel that, and my husband could feel that. And I was almost angry, and I was angry about the situation I was in because it was painful. And what was the situation? Well, for me, I felt helpless. I felt uniquely helpless to some things. I felt helpless a little bit financially. We were in $80,000 worth of student debt, and I felt helpless to that. I felt a little bit helpless to the state of my home because I didn't have the resources to change the things I really wanted to change. I felt a little helpless in my motherhood because I was a new mom and I wanted to get outside and go hiking and go to the coffee shop and things like that, but I didn't really know how to manage a little baby and a toddler, and I didn't know how to get outside and not get kidnapped or something. I just was scared, and I didn't know how to run laundry, and I didn't know how to get dinner on the table every night. I just wasn't taught these things, you know. I played softball and I went to school, and running a home and motherhood felt foreign to me. I don't know if you can relate at all, but I just was almost like in this mom boot camp, and it was so painful, and I I didn't know how to take care of myself in the midst of all that. So everybody kind of suffered because I was doing the wrong thing with the pain, and I was just not pleasant to be around. So I think the first thing for me was starting to work on myself and to put my relationship with the Lord as a priority. I mean, for me uniquely, I'm a Christian, and that's a priority for me. So I can remember that things started to shift for me when I realized that I wanted more time in the Word. I feel like, the Bible says that it's alive and active. It's profitable for teaching and rebuking and correcting and training in righteousness, and it never returns void. Like, even if I don't feel like opening my Bible, it's never ever a waste of time. Even if I didn't get some kind of glorious nugget out that morning, or even if I didn't feel like opening that day, I know that it started to change me little by little. So I started to get up early, started to go to Starbucks and just read my Bible for a little bit. I also noticed that taking back my home, when I started journaling, I had journaled in the past where I would just free flow, write whatever was on my brain, and I had lost that practice. And when I got back to that practice, I noticed that it cleared out the junk in my brain. Instead of complaining to my husband or complaining to my mom or complaining to whoever would listen, I started just complaining to my journal and to the Lord and getting it all out and really working on my thought life. I went to counseling, and I didn't go for very many sessions, but the one nugget I picked up that was very helpful was the Philippians 4, I think it's 4:13 or 4:8. I can't remember which one, but it's like, think about what is true and what is lovely and what is admirable and what is excellent and what is praiseworthy. Started to change my thought life, and it started to change my home. And so, me taking care of me, started to exercise again because I was struggling really with depression. I was depressed about my life. And, I was a pretty active person who read my Bible before, and I was very independent, and I came and went as I pleased, and motherhood it felt like it took that from me, but it really didn't. I had to just change the way I was looking at it. I started getting up early, started going to CrossFit a couple times a week, like early, first class they had. And I started to feel like I had more energy and feel better in my body, and things just started to change when I realized, and this is the crucial part that I want to share, that I'm not helpless. I think a lot of us feel helpless, and what it feels like to be helpless is that you're waiting on somebody to come and save you, for somebody to come and solve the problems. But when you look around and you realize that we have everything that we need to be faithful in the Lord, that we can ask for help, and then just to be on the lookout for the help. And, sometimes it's just the smallest decision of faithfulness and obedience. Like, I'm going to set my alarm this morning, and I'm going to get up, and I'm going to read my Bible, and I'm going to go for a walk. And little by little, that kind of stuff starts to bleed into other parts of our lives and change us. And so the first thing was changing me. The second thing was getting rid of a lot of clutter. I had to realize that I am not helpless to this situation. I am a part of the problem. And when I took ownership of the problem, that the clutter in the house is because of me, it's not because of my kids, it's not because of my kids' clothes and kids' toys and my husband's clothes, like it's me. It's me. Then, like the control moved back to me. And when I was when we blame other people, sometimes we're giving them control. I took it back to me. No, I can declutter. No, I can make decisions about how many toys my kids play with. I can make decisions about what I let into my home. I started to be a better gatekeeper. I read a really incredible book called The Joy of Less. I actually did a video on this, but it changed the way I looked at things, and I started to not feel helpless. That feeling of helplessness, I'm telling you, it took down my home because I was waiting on my husband to ride in on his white horse and save me. And that's a lot of pressure for a man. They're not meant to carry all of that. And so, I started to take back the clutter and take back my space. This is the home that I have, and it feels better when it has less items, and I do not have to have all this stuff. And so just gave myself lots of permission to declutter anything that was not currently blessing my life. That's what she really helps you with in the book Joy of Less, is she helps you see that if it's not for this current season, it doesn't have to be in your home. And also I took Margaret's decluttering course, and that took it to a whole nother level. I mean, I went completely crazy and really decluttered the kids' clothes, and that felt glorious for laundry. So the next thing I changed was I changed the sounds in my home. I don't know if you ever feel overstimulated in your home, but I changed to really low key, just beautiful classical music. I started lighting candles. So the lighting in my home, I went through and I changed the bulbs to be like a more like warm amber feel versus so fluorescent. That started to change the way I felt. I put the TV away. There was no TV in the upstairs area, so not hearing a lot of TV. I stopped listening to so many podcasts out loud. I kind of reserved that for more like when I'm doing laundry or when I'm getting a bath or something like that, or on a walk, but just started to take down the levels of noise and light that did not feel good. I added more plants to my home. And the other thing was I started to try to get outside multiple times a day because nature is so regulating. They have something in Japan called forest bathing, and they've done all kinds of research that if people can get out completely surrounded by nature one time a week, like on lab results, their cortisol levels go down. And I think that's fascinating. When I look back at my early motherhood, there's hardly any pictures of green that can be seen on my photo roll. Maybe they're in my yard if I have any, but I certainly wasn't getting out into nature. And that's what I do love about being in my wild and free group is we go out to nature spots. I'm with other moms, so I'm not feeling as nervous. And I come back so regulated, like putting my feet in water, and my kids have played outside and gotten that good energy out, and we've been out in the sunshine. Like I think sometimes we're too cooped up in our home, and that is negatively impacting our home. Whereas if we can just put the chores aside for a little bit and go get outside, I think we can come back with fresh eyes and fresh energy to our homes. I don't think we're just not meant to be inside all the time. And the last thing I'll say is really I started to limit the amount of inputs that were coming into my life that were causing comparison in my life. So personally for me, I got off Instagram. I just noticed it really wasn't blessing my motherhood. Sure, I learned a couple of things. Sure, I stayed connected to other moms. But if I was being really honest with myself, it had more negative impact on my life and my mental health and my home than it had positives. And so I couldn't justify it anymore personally. It was also making me feel very dysregulated and very distracted because I already have ADHD tendencies. And so then I went even further and I switched to a light phone. Now I have a Wise phone. So it's like a smartphone, but it's very dialed down, very limited options, a couple of key tools like Venmo and Audible and Spotify and Waze and calculator and text, and I can send videos and pictures, but like I don't have the whole a whole computer in my hands with every single tool and the whole world's access in my pocket. I don't have all that, and that has really significantly changed my home. I'm so much more present. I just shared this verse in a recent video, but I think it's worth mentioning again, and it's Colossians 4:17, and Paul is talking to the church of Colossae, and he's saying at the very end of the letter, pay attention to the ministry you have received in the Lord so that you can accomplish it. How can we accomplish the ministry of motherhood if we are not paying attention to our motherhood, if we're taking it casually? How can we do really well in the ministry of building a home if we're not taking it seriously? Like, how can we do that? And I love this quote. It's from a book called For the Family's Sake by Susan Schaefer Macaulay. And she says, an ordinary life lived faithfully is where the glory of God is best reflected. An ordinary life. That's what we're doing in our homes most of the time. We're living an ordinary life. But if we live an ordinary life faithfully, that is where the glory of God is best reflected. We don't have to go halfway across the world to glorify the Lord. Sure, some people are called to, missions internationally in deep, far-reach places of the world, but most of us are going to be called to lay our life down in a million tiny ways in the ordinary moments of life. And that comes, I think, at the most basic level of starting to build a home, to take back our home, to take dominion, the beautiful dominion God gives us to take charge of building our home. And when we build a home like that, I envision it as like a nest that birds can come and just rest in the shade. People can rest underneath the shade of our home. They can rest in the branches of our home. I've always seen the home is a huge, beautiful tree that has deep roots that other people can come and find refreshment and rest in. And that's the kind of home I'm trying to build. I'm certainly in the building phase of it. It's got a lot of work to do. I'm looking at messes as I record this, and I know that there's laundry that's not done, and I know there's some dishes in the sink, but it's not the arrival, it's the progress, right? That progress that we're making progress on the goal of taking back our home. I think that's what's exhilarating, that we're not leaving it to chance, that we're not feeling helpless, but we're making small, tiny decisions that little by little by little, we will see our home grow and flourish. And when I step into the home of an older, wiser woman who has raised her kids, I can feel the lifetime accomplishment in that home. I'm thinking of 2 homes very specifically right now, and the feeling I get in that home. I know that it didn't happen by accident. I know that the things on the wall were intentionally put there and curated over time. And it's like walking into this museum of art that's been curated. It feels so special and meaningful because there is a lifetime of intention and beauty that has been laid down in that space. And it has a feeling, it has an environment. And when I come into those places, I feel like I can be all of myself and I feel refreshed. And I know that their kids feel that way when they come home too, creating a home that we want our families to want to come back to. I did another video where it's creating a home that people want to come back to, and I share parts of a book called Let's Go Home, and the book just makes me tear up every single time, because in that book there is this line, and it says it doesn't matter so much the kind of home, but it's the living that takes place there that makes all the difference. The living that takes place inside. And it shows you cottages, little shacks, mansions, cabins. Like at the very beginning, there's all this shot of all these different houses, but it's the living inside that changes the whole vibe of the home. And so I feel like it's such important work. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Have you been in a home that you walked in and you instantly felt loved? You felt the comfort, the warmth, the peace that dwells there? Tell me, I would love to hear, what did you notice about that home? What stands out to you? Like maybe it's a grandmother's home or something like that. Maybe it doesn't have the most beautiful decor, but there's something about that place that makes you want to come back time and time again. I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts down below. I learn from you guys all the time. That's why I call this channel Girl Teach Me. Girl, teach me how you do this or that, right? It's not Lana Teach Me. And so please share your wisdom down below. I know it can be a blessing to another mom who stops by and reads the comments. And if any of this video resonated with you, I hope that you'll stay and hit subscribe, and I'll see you again in the next video.
It's so unnecessary dwelling about the past, 'cause I know that God is good, He led me to where I'm at. Sometimes I feel like giving up, you're giving in, but everything happens for a reason. It won't always be blue skies ahead. Sometimes you might need a helping hand, just like iron sharpens iron, making me stronger, calling me higher. When we come together, just like iron sharpens iron, making us stronger, calling us higher. When we're helping each other, we're growing together.